So, looking through these questions, I don't see Mr. Curatola in here. Yeah, don't see anybody. There's Vince. I see you. All right, let's go live with Vince. Check in with Vince. One second. Let's see what we got going on. Vince, I just requested you. Vince is new to Instagram, everybody. Oh, we're connected.
Hello. Whoa, wait. Where's my face?
You're getting there. Just getting in.
Hold on. Okay. I'm looking at you. I'm not going to look at me.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. How are you, man? How are you?
How you doing, Danny?
I'm great, man. Good to see you. I'm honored to have you on here.
My pleasure.
My
pleasure. How's that? Is that better?
That's great. Yeah. However you're comfortable. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Maureen's told me.
Hi, Maureen. Hi, Maureen. How are you guys doing? Were you watching before? Did you see that? You see the guy we had on before had a shirt with you on there?
I saw the shirt. I think you should take it off and give it to me.
Hey, we got you. We'll get Joe on it for you. That was actually made by Joe.
Oh, good, Joe. I got it. That's double extra large, by the way.
All right, Joe. You hear that? Double XL. You know, anybody else is interested, infamoussketches.com. And for anybody who's tuning in now for the first time, this is day 3 of the SopranosCon live quarantine party. And we're here live with the King of New York, Mr. Vince Curatola, aka Johnny Sack, John Sacramone, one of my favorite characters for sure. How are you doing? How are you doing during all this mayhem?
We're good.
On?
We're settled down. Everything's fine. You know, we have 2 little grandsons at home from school, which is a delight for me. I don't think they should go to school at all, but that's another story. So I'm happy they're home taking their lessons on the screen, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's a very strange time.
Strange times we live in, for sure.
Yeah, people just dart out of your way when you go into the post office because they, all of a sudden it's like you're toxic, but they're okay. You ever figure that one out? Maybe they're toxic and whatever. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, one thing I've learned about this, you mentioned grandkids in school. One thing I've learned about this is that teachers, they're not getting paid enough. Whatever it is that they're getting paid, they need a raise. That's for sure.
They need a raise? Okay.
Yeah, I got 3 here myself, so
I hear you. I'm
dealing with that.
How are the other 2 fellows? How are Mike and Joe?
Mike and Joe are on here. They're doing well. Chime in, guys. And everybody else, if you got a question for Vince.
Yeah.
Hit that question, that question mark here at the bottom, and we'll see what we can get to. So Vince, for anyone who's not familiar yet, how did you get into acting?
Well, I'll tell you, I started to study with the actor named Michael Moriarty. Michael was the star of Law and Order in the beginning. Okay. And Michael was in Pale Rider with Clint Eastwood. Matter of fact, Michael was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for, with Clint Eastwood. Anyway, then he did Bang the Drum Slowly. He's a Tony Award winner on Broadway. And I said to myself, well, I always loved old movies, but I was too busy running a business every day to take the time really to go and study. And I think if you don't study something, you really have no business getting into it. So I wanted to do it from square one. He was a tremendous instructor, a tremendous coach. And he got me on the original Law and Order so I could qualify and get my Screen Actor Guild card, which without it, you could forget working. So he did me that favor, and I began. And then I wrote a movie, actually wrote a movie called Dearly Beloved about a degenerate degenerate gambler, funeral director in Brooklyn, a comedy. And I put Tony Sirico in it. This is 6 years before the Sopranos. And as a matter of fact, I'm having more dupes made. It's a half-hour comedy. We shot it on film in Brooklyn, all on location, and called Dearly Beloved. And then nothing happened, and about, I think it was 4 years later, my first episode of Sopranos. While we were working, it hadn't aired yet. So everybody figured, well, you know, it could be something. Maybe we'll see. Who knows? Whatever. And then, of course, it came on the air early '99, and you know, you bring your clothes to the dry cleaner, and people are staring at you, and you're saying to yourself, I didn't do anything to them. Why are they staring at me? It took a while to sink in, you know.
How so? That sounds all right. So you took some acting classes. You got
I
a
took
lot.
quite. I was there about 2 years. Yeah.
Oh wow!
In
And that was
Manhattan.
before. And that was before your first role.
That was before my first role. Yes. As a matter of fact, when I began taking classes, I was 39 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what were you doing before
And the
that?
reason I own the masonry business in northern New Jersey, very busy business, which eventually I gave to my son Ryan in 2000, I guess, when we really ramped up the Sopranos, and I couldn't go and give estimates to people anymore because I would show up at the door and they'd be scared.
Oh
So I
wow.
said, Ryan, do you want the business? He said, yeah, I like it. So we gave him the business and he ran it. And that's what I did before, yeah, for many years.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
you got this. You got an opportunity to audition for Sopranos. Is that like I've heard a lot of different stories from different cast members about their audition experience. Was yours a
Uh-huh.
long and grueling process, or where you had to come
No,
back a bunch of
actually,
times?
no, you know what, Danny? I didn't want to go to the audition at all.
Oh wow.
At all. I was doing a little NBC movie of the week with Chris Noth, who was a friend of mine, Chris Noth from Law and Order. Movie was called Exiled.
Okay, I know who he is,
Correct.
Mr. Big in Sex and the City.
Mr. Big, that's
Yeah.
correct. So we were friends, and he said, listen, I need a guy to play a detective. I said, fine, good, where? Well, Staten Island is one of the locations, and there was another one, whatever. So I had an agent at the time who said to me, there's this thing called The Sopranos. I said, yeah, I know about it. Tony Sirico is already in filming. She said, well, there's a part of a New York underboss. I said, nah, I'm busy. I don't want to go. She said, no, really, you should, you know, I don't want to go. I don't want. She made the appointment, and I guess I fluffed it off. I don't remember. 2 or 3 days later, she called me again. She said, you know, you should go in for this. Meantime, the breakdown for this character was a guy who was 75 years old. Okay? At the time, I was in my 40s. So the third go-around, I was busy. The third go-around, I said to her, okay, make the appointment. So I was on set in Staten Island doing a little bit of work on this NBC movie called Exiled. They wrapped me early in the morning. I ran back home to New Jersey. I got changed. I don't know why. And then I got to West 72nd Street in Manhattan, and I got out of the cab about 15 minutes late. And I said to myself, you know, I'm tired of rushing all day long. I'm going to light a cigarette and walk around for a while, which I did. I finished the cigarette. I lit another one. Now I'm looking in the window of a pet shop. All these little puppies are playing. Now I'm a good 40 minutes late. But it's like, I don't care.
No urgency.
No urgency whatsoever. So finally I do go up. I go upstairs. And there was a woman casting director sitting at a desk in a huge room. She didn't even lift up her head. She heard me walk in. She said, you're late. I'm going home. Oh, okay, no problem. So she looked up at me. She said, do you have the pages that were faxed to you? I said, yeah. She said, sit down. Let's read the scene together. And so we read it. And then she said to me, I want you to meet, this was a Thursday. I want you to come back on Monday to a different location. I want you to meet someone. So that following Monday, I went to Silver Cup Studios, which was our home base in Queens. And I read again for Johnny Sack for David Chase and some of the producers. I didn't know who David Chase was. I don't think anybody did. And what happened was, Danny, that's called a callback. So you had your audition. Now you have a callback. So I'm in the waiting room. And there were, I don't know how many other guys in there for the role of Johnny Sack. And you hear each one go in because the walls were thin. And I hear guys screaming, no, Hesh this, Uncle Junior that, Tony, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, I got it. So I went in. They introduced me to everyone. They said, you ready? I said, yeah, I'm ready. Well, let's start the scene. So I began to whisper my dialogue. so that they kind of had to lean in. So, what is he talking about? What did he say? Tony this, Uncle Hesh, what? Because I figured if a guy's powerful, he doesn't have to scream at you. He can just tell you the way it's going to be.
Mm.
And the next morning, my agent called me and said that they'd like you to do that episode. It was only supposed to be one episode, Danny. It wasn't supposed to be a character. Huh? One episode, so it aired. And then they got the order after it aired. After it went on the air in January of '99. I was like, I think maybe a week later, HBO contacted David Chase and said, that's it. It's great. We want another season. He said, that's all well and good. I never wrote a second season. He had no material for a second season whatsoever. So it took a long time. And finally, he wrote whatever he wrote for the second. And they called me, and I think I did 3 or 4. And then the next season became a regular contract player. And it went on from there.
Thank God. So. Thank God. Now,
yeah,
I've heard I heard about other stories before about how like David Chase and some of the writers would incorporate like real life elements from the actors, you know, into their characters. Now, you just mentioned that you were a cigarette smoker. And there's always comments about how there's just nobody in film, not just TV, but nobody in film who smoked a cigarette like Johnny Sack. You know, it felt like exhaling like 100 pounds. And then you're talking about how you were whispering. I would say that like from someone who doesn't know anything about acting, knowing now that you had a very limited background, very, very confident on screen, like very like, you know, so kudos for that because it's very, very believable.
Thank you. But I have to tell you that, you know, I have an acting workshop in northern New Jersey. And
how often do you do that?
Every Saturday afternoon.
Every Saturday. So are you still doing it now in these times?
We are to a smaller degree, very small. I have only my real craftsmen coming in. There are now 3 of them, 4 of them. The master class is 25 students.
Wow. Okay, well,
you suspended temporarily. So
now, would you be interested in doing it on live? I think we might be able to find some people that might be interested in doing it with you.
That would be wonderful because I love coaching. I don't call myself an acting teacher because I really don't believe, in my opinion, you can teach anyone to act. But I believe if you do have something, it can be brought out, and that's not an egotistical statement. That's just the way I feel. So I don't call myself a teacher. I don't believe it can be taught. But I do call myself a coach if I can help someone discover a character that they're working on. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So anybody who's tuning in now live for the first time, this is SopranosCon Live Quarantine Party Episode 3. We are talking to the legend here, Vincent Curatola. Is that how you say that in Italian?
You're right, Curatola.
Ah, very cool.
Vincenzo Curatola.
So,
and by the way, they can follow me at Vincent Curatola on Twitter.
That's right.
So I'm on there a lot.
You're on Twitter. Now. We just got you on Instagram today.
Now you just took me up big time on Instagram. I'm very grateful. It's a lot of fun. I'm seeing things I never saw before.
We had some comments that were like, you know, he doesn't have any posts. This could be a bot account, and I'm like, oh, he'll post. Don't worry about it.
I'm here. I'm full. You know, I have to tell you very quickly that a week before we did SopranosCon last November in New Jersey, that I was in Saudi Arabia, believe it or not, with Federico Castelluccio Furio, good friend, and Rennie Pastor. And I'll tell you something, going to the Middle East, 6,500 miles away from New York City.
Wow.
So many Soprano fans, I was shocked by it.
No, I am too. That's unbelievable.
It was amazing. And then, of course, following week we did SopranosCon, and it went over so well.
You had a good experience?
Wonderful people who came to see us. Very gratifying and very courageous of the 3 of you to throw down and do what you did. And the one that's going to be in Harrah's, God willing, in August is going to be bigger.
There you go. SopranosCon 2020. We're doing MobMovieCon also. Same space. Harrah's AC, August 22nd, 23rd. Vince will be there. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, talking about like your role, do you know if there's any kind of inspiration for the character? I've heard a lot of people talk about like some comparisons to John Gotti.
No, you know, I'm going to tell you something, Danny. the writing was so specific that I personally didn't have to look at anyone else for any kind of guidance, because it was so clear in the writing that every time I got a new script, I would look at all my work and say, oh yeah, I got this. I know what he's thinking. I have an idea. I know what Tony Soprano's thinking. It was just so simple that, and I felt that if I were to try and emulate someone, either who's in the news or someone who lives across the street, that I wouldn't be doing my character justice. I think for any actor, if you can't bring it up off the page by itself, something's wrong with the writing. But it was just so simple. And I'll tell you something else. I had a couple of tricks that I used. I mean, there were meetings with Tony Soprano and Johnny Sack where I knew I just wasn't going to do well. And those were the days I would make sure I would leave my money clip inside my dressing room. Because when you have a lot of money in your pocket, you feel good. When I saw scenes being written that I was going to win something, you know, whatever, those were the days when I went on set with a lot of money in my pocket. Because I'm not a method actor, but it helped me both ways. And then when my character wound up in jail in a jumpsuit and they have no pockets, your entire feeling and your entire delivery changes. You're not as confident. You're not as strong. Whatever an actor needs to hopefully make it work, you try everything.
That's really interesting. And, just you bring up the last season, a lot of prime characters that get killed off. They're usually very memorable scenes, very spur of the moment, some of them. Right. And yours was memorable, but it was in a different way that we're used to, because you got an entire episode of kind of like your deteriorating really in front of us.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And there was you could just tell that there was a different attitude coming from you, as opposed to when you're the underboss and then the boss briefly, of New York. Yeah. You're
arrogant.
There you go. But it was a very interesting segue from what we were used to, as opposed and just in terms of how other people leave the show.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. As a matter of fact, Terry Winter, who was one of our writers who went on to create Boardwalk Empire, called me and said, Vince, we're writing an episode. Johnny's going to become very sick and he's going to die. And I said, fine. What do we need to do? He said, well, you're on the foundation board of Hackensack University Medical Center. Yeah. He said, do you think we can speak to their oncologists? We'd like to know what Johnny's going to look like. We'd like to know what drugs he's going to be on. So I hooked them up, and they went over to Hackensack, and they spoke with a doctor there who I knew. And that's how they created my demise. As a matter of fact, Danny, the day I died in the bed was the first day of shooting that episode. So I went backwards. So I died first and went all the way back to the diagnosis, because, as you know, in film, schedules have to be changed very quickly. And so I said to myself, I don't know how to die. I don't think any of us really do. But I assumed that dying, you do the same thing that a healthy person does, but you just do it much slower. And you just slow down and slow down and slow down. And finally, the train comes in the station and you're dead.
It was definitely a memorable episode and a moment. It was sad for a lot of people, I believe. The whole last season was sad for a lot of people, I think. Leading up to this, were there any other times that you were worried that you were going to get whacked off the show or anything that?
No, I'll tell you why. First of all, you don't want to be off the show. And I remember that many times we would have characters come in to play minor roles who might be in once in a blue moon, And one of them said to me one time, standing at the craft service table getting a snack, oh, hello, Mr. Curatola. I said, hi, how are you? I said, I see David Chase in the hallway, and he has seen me 6 or 7 times, and he doesn't even acknowledge me, doesn't talk to me. I said, you're lucky. You're very lucky David Chase doesn't say a word. Because if he's going to talk to you, he's going to pull you off to the side and say, you're done. Your character's going to die, or you're going to get arrested going away for a long... I said, be very, very happy he's not talking to you. Because David was not communicative at all, which was fine, which meant he was happy with your work. He felt no need to comment. I went through years like that with him. It didn't bother me. Did not bother me.
So the script was his vision, even though there's some collaborations in there. You have some of the most memorable lines in the entire series, multitudes of them. Are any of them improv, or are they all just straight from the script?
No. Everything was written, Danny. You're not permitted to improv anything, not even or gee, nothing. If it wasn't written, you weren't saying it. As a matter of fact, one morning, Jim and I had a scene at the Bada Bing. No, I'm sorry, wrong. The Nuovo Vesuvio restaurant. And one of the words that Jimmy's character had to use was an Italian word. So after we had the table read a couple of weeks before, I knew there was a mistake. I could see it. And the word was wrong. I knew it was wrong. Not my place to correct anyone. But that morning when we're about to do the first shot, the master shot of he and I talking, I said, Jimmy, this word is wrong. He said, what do you mean it's wrong? Because Jim didn't know Italian. I do. I said, it's not the word that they want. Oh, tell Terry. Let's tell Terry when to write it. Because anyone who wrote an episode, whichever writer it was, had to be on set at all times. It's called the writer being in the hole with the director, the producer, and the actors. Okay. So we walked over to Terry. He's standing up against the wall. Terry, this word's wrong. He said, okay, what's the right word? He said, I thought that was the right word. No, it's not. And I don't remember what it was, Danny. He said, okay, hang on. They had to call David Chase. And all I heard Terry Winter on the phone say, Vince said the word's wrong. Shut up. Just tell him you found out the word. What are you bringing me up for? Oh, then Terry says to me, David wants to know what the right word is. So I told him. Okay. But imagine, Terry, who wrote it, had to get permission before you could film the other word. That's how tight it was. There's no improv. You didn't bring any suggestions to anyone. I don't think I would have done well if gee, you know what? I got an idea for an episode. No, it didn't work that way. It was David's show. He's the Wizard of Oz, period. And it worked.
Awesome. No, it's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you guys are still, even before the show started, very tight-knit and family-esque, and even after, more so, is what it seems like from the outside perspective. You guys are very close-knit still.
I'll tell you something. There was a place downtown in Manhattan. Do we have time?
Yeah, we have plenty of time.
Have time? Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll get some questions in a minute. Yeah.
Okay. It was called Mary Lou's. It was a hangout for actors, a lot of actors. It was a hangout for a lot of things. But anyway, so that's where I met Tony Sirico in 1992. Then I did Dearly Beloved in 94. I put Tony in the movie. And so we had a thing where we would hang out every Thursday night. And a lot of different guys you see on screen today used to hang out on a Thursday night for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway. So one night this guy walks in, like in, 97, 98. And for some reason we said hello to each other. I said, you look familiar to me. He said, yeah, I'm an actor. I've done some stuff. I said, my name's Jim Gandolfini. I said, oh, hi, I'm Vince Curatola. Oh, hello, how are you? What happened was, once I got the first episode of The Sopranos, you have to go to a table read, at least a week before you begin that episode. So I go to the table read, and every character has to be sitting at the table with their script. And I see him sitting at the head of the table next to David Chase.
Oh, wow.
I looked at him. I said, Jimmy, this is your show? Yeah. I mean, I said, you didn't say a
Wow.
word in the club, in the restaurant. Not a word that you're starting a series. But this was episode 6 already, called Pax Soprano.
Mm-hmm.
Very humble guy. So did the read through, and a few days later I started, and I had scenes with him, which you saw. It was his anniversary. He
Yep.
wants me to talk Uncle Joe, whatever, the whole bit. But once it really got rolling, Danny, the cast became very close. I mean, we've been to funerals together. We've been to weddings together. We've laughed a lot together. There were moments where there was some sadness. Went on for years. Years. And the families are very tight. Jim's 2 sisters and his wife and his little daughter, Lily. We see them. Tony Sirico, I mean, I've been on the phone with him since 1992. Robert Eiler, 2 days ago. Vince, what are you doing? How you doing with the COVID virus? I'm fine. He's in L.A. There's just like a strength which is incredible.
That's very cool. Now, before we get to some fan questions,
okay.
Do you have, like a most memorable moment with Jim? Whether it's shooting on scene or, off camera?
God, that's some question, Danny. That's really some question.
I know that he's a very fond, person for a lot of you guys, so I'm sure you have plenty. I know you have plenty.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. I have to say, first of all, I want to say to you that working with Jim was a masterclass in acting training. He had no idea that I don't think he had any idea that he was that talented. But he was seamlessly talented. You could have a conversation about a new car or something, or whatever it was. Then the director would call action. You just went right into the scene. Like there was no struggling, no hesitation, no unsure of himself. We had so many moments. I remember we were in Newark on location, and it was a scene where he pulls up in his car. I pull up in mine. And he's going to explain to me that he's not in on this idea of killing Carmine, my boss. And it was summer, it was August, so naturally it doesn't get dark until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And it was a night shot. They brought us in 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Only God knows the reason why, I don't know. So we spent a few hours in the trailer on location in Newark. Meantime, my car's on a flatbed, so they bring in the picture cars, get them ready. So I don't know what happened. It was a big scene where I say, tomorrow I go into work, creeps on this petty pace. And I got to listen to that idiot, which I don't want to use the word, whatever. So as you know, you do a master shot first, long distance shot. And then you start to push in for the close-ups and whatever. So normally the star of the project gets the close-ups first. But Jimmy was different. Jimmy would say, can we go on Vince first? I just, it'll warm me up. Yeah, no problem. I don't know whether it was the heat, the humidity. I don't know what it was. But when the camera came over his shoulder onto me for my close-ups, it's like I wanted to destroy him. Not Jimmy Gandolfini. I wanted to destroy Tony Soprano. Now he's really letting me down. And I could feel the fire coming out of my eyes. John Patterson directed it. John passed from cancer some years later. After a while, he cut. Okay. He looked at me. Jimmy looked at me. He said, I don't know if you're just a great fucking actor or if you're completely out of your fucking mind. I said, you of all people calling me crazy? Are you nuts? But, he had that way of working with you. You were completely comfortable. But he also had an ability that when his character was getting very aggravated, Jimmy would become taller right in front of your eyes. I don't know how he did it. It's like he had an elevator in his legs or something. He would just start to get taller and taller and taller. because normally we made eye contact at the same level. But at that point, then I'm looking up at him going, this guy just got fucking taller. How did this happen? He could go into character so deeply, that he was Tony Soprano. But my wife had a little bit of a blip one Christmas, and we brought her to the hospital to be checked. She was in for a few days. And Jimmy came to the hospital Christmas Day to see Maureen. He called me first. I said, Jimmy, it's ridiculous. It's Christmas. You know, it's not a problem. She's fine. We're going to home a couple. No. Christmas in the Hackensack. And he came with his wife, Deborah. And he sat and he kept you company. He just kept you company. When my brother-in-law passed away, one of them, we went to the funeral home when, where was I? West Virginia.
You were in West Virginia.
I was in West Virginia.
He came.
Doing an appearance. And I said to Jimmy, I feel terrible. I can't go to Marine Brothers. No. You have to work. Go do we have. I'll go. He went. You know, it's just, who does that? Who does that?
That's incredible. And I hate to cut you off. It looks like we lost your video side. I was wondering if it was just me, or I just saw a couple comments come in saying that it was black. So I didn't know if there's anything going on your end that we can.
Oh my God, what did I do? Hold on a minute.
How do you get it back?
How do I get it back, Dan? How do I get the video? What do I press?
Well, you're in. So you know, there might be a button at the top that looks like a recycle sign. Maybe you have the yeah, right next to it to the left. Maybe you have it facing the other way and your finger's on it or something.
No, I'm clear.
There you go. You're back.
I'm back. Oh, okay. Hold on. Wait a minute. No, we're back on reverse.
Yeah, now hit that button again.
Hit that button again.
This.
Top left button, yeah. There you go. You're back.
Oh, wow.
All right. Let's get to some questions really quickly while we still have some time.
Go ahead.
Vince, do you cook, and if so, what's your go-to dish?
Oh my God, I don't cook, but I tell you, I did the Rachel Ray show, and I won the sauce-off contest. Me and Sharippa, he had his meat sauce. I brought Maureen's marinara recipe, and I have a great big trophy to show for it. I won. I don't cook, but I'm very good at being picky with food. Extremely good at it.
And you were on the $20 chef with us last summer too. You walked out on that one pretty quickly, but yeah.
I had to go home. I took a water pill that day, Danny. I had to go home.
Hey, we were having a long day. We all were having a long day. Here's another question from me and my Jays says, did you read for any other part besides Johnny Sack?
No, I did not. I didn't read. That was the only one that I was submitted for. And as I said, it was only supposed to be a one-time thing. And he was much older than I was at the time, but it clicked. No, I didn't read for any other part in the show, no.
Very cool, very cool. Let's see what else we got here. You know, there is a theory floating around out there that when the show ends, that Tony dies and that Paulie takes over the family. Now, the reason for Paulie would be because he was like, you were cozying up to him and like getting him to talk to you, you know, like out of school, so to speak. Yeah. So do you have a theory on the ending there?
I haven't, you know, all I can say is, well, a couple of weeks after the last episode aired, I got a phone call to do a video with Bill and Hillary Clinton, not to support her at the time, back in 2007. You read my Twitter, you'll get why.
That's why I'm laughing.
There was like a spoof on the ending of The Sopranos, done in a diner in Mount Kisco, New York, but she orders him carrot sticks. And make a long story short, my theory, and we watched it together in Florida, Jim, Tony Sirico, myself, we were doing a personal appearance. And there were a lot of people in the ballroom. They put us in a separate room to watch the ending. We were all shocked, Danny. Nobody had any idea that this was the way it was going to end. My feeling is that the family survived, but David Chase just closed the door so you couldn't see them anymore. That's how I felt about it. And that was it. I don't think it was a hit. No.
See, now, I always thought it was a hit on the audience, if anything. If anything,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
if anyone, we went black, and the world lives on. Don't stop believing, right?
Right. Well, a lot of people weren't happy, Danny. A lot of people were not happy with that ending, but you know, it was David Chase's choice. It's his show.
I think that over time, I think has proven that, you know, it's lasted this long, that, you know,
Yeah.
10 plus years later, we're still talking about it, and leaving it open ended.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sounds like a cop out, right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you know, I have kids, whatever, you know, 20 years old, running up to me today, along with the older people who saw it when it originally aired. And these are all brand new fans, because they were kids when this was on, and now they've gone back and they heard about it. So they got the DVDs, and they did this. It's amazing how many of them know you just from that show. It's amazing.
It is. It's this streaming generation. I mean, like, I didn't get to watch it live until about season 4.
Okay.
I didn't have HBO growing up. And when I thought, my friend Tim and his father used to watch it every Sunday, and I came over one night and got a glimpse. I was more into films and movies at the time. And when I saw this one episode, I don't remember which one it was, but I was very much hooked. And I asked him, if I had to start anywhere, where would you start? If it's just like one episode to figure out if I'm going to like this. And I went to Blockbuster. I went to Blockbuster the next day, and I bought a previewed DVD pack, and The Wait was the first episode. So really, that episode with you really was what got me, like, into the show. Wow. And you've been a favorite character of mine ever since then. And before we go, I have some more. People can drop some comments in there.
Yeah,
if they feel like it. But before I sign off with you, someone like me who makes memes, I'm very reluctant, or at least I used to be very reluctant, to tag the cast members and the actors behind these characters in them, because let's face it, some of them are out there. And I remember sending you this on Twitter, this GQ.
Oh yeah, the GQ. I love that shot. It's my wife's favorite. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So it was definitely something that, you know, once you responded on Twitter for me, it was a very much like, oh my gosh, like, Vince likes my meme.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So this whole thing has been a dream come true, and I appreciate all that you've done for us in terms of promoting these events that we're doing, and just believing in us.
I'm going to do a lot more, so just rely on me. Don't worry about it.
Hey man, I really appreciate you, and you know, I'm glad that I'm able to call you a friend now at this point, a year later. But you know, it's crazy. This is where we are.
Anytime, Dan. Anytime. It's my pleasure. You're a gentleman, my friend.
Thank you. Give my love to the family. I hear Maureen in the background.
Yes. Say good night, Maureen.
Good night, Danny. Thank you very much for everything.
Where is she?
Hey, thank you guys for everything.
God bless, Danny. Talk to you tomorrow.
You too.
Okay.
We'll talk soon.
Right.
See ya.
Right. Bye-bye. Bye.
All right. What an epic interview. That was awesome. Very cool to hear from him. There's a lot of questions down here. If anybody's tuning in for the very first time, again, this is SopranosCon Live, quarantine party number 3.